if need be. There we go. So welcome. Anyway, let me share my screen. Here we go. Can you guys see that? You can see it. Yes, got some head slides. Cool. All right. So yeah, let's turn this thing up. You gotta love the PowerPoints. Oh yeah. Okay. Anyway, so the question I'd ask is this: when it comes to the credit card game, what game are you playing? What do you? And we can maybe have this conversation a little bit. But what game are you playing? Like, what do you want to do with your points? What's your current strategies? Do you have a strategy? Are you just doing the thing that you've had one credit card for 7 years and you just kind of keep racking up points on that, but you're getting $1 per mile or 1 point per dollar spend, or you're doing a cash back where maybe you get like 1.5 or $2 cents per dollar. Any current thoughts or any strategies? Or I can make this rhetorical as well too, but does anyone want to share what their current strategies are when it comes to using credit cards and their points?
I've got one card that I've been using for the last few years. It's a pretty small limit card. I get like cash back for like dining with it, or like gas, or like booking flights, things like that.
So
That's as far as I know into it.
okay, so you get like, is that 2 cents, 2 points per dollar, or what?
Daniel recommended I get the card. My old roommate, Daniel Lalazern. So I got it.
Sure.
That
So
I've had it for 2 years. I don't really know a whole lot more than that. I get like $20 back a month in reward points.
okay, and how much are you spending roughly a month to get $20 back? Like 2 grand?
Anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000, yeah, somewhere in that
you're
range.
okay. So you're probably getting about 2% back. Do you have the Capital One Quicksilver by chance?
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Look at that. Called it. Okay. So that's definitely one strategy, right? So you're getting a little bit of something. But what I'm going to talk about tonight too is learning how to play the game of leverage, as well as turning how to play the game of like really maximizing credit cards and really having them do some pretty cool stuff for you. So really simply, my motivation to learn this was this. I remember sitting on airlines or an airplane and watching all these people in first class kind of go up there in the lay flat seats. And my thought was, what are they doing in life that they can afford that? And not just them, but they have like 4 kids with them and they have like their whole family rolling with them. And what I learned was they're not paying for them. Almost nobody that sits in first class pays for their actual seats. They either have status with the airlines because they do all their spending on one type of credit card, an airline co-branded credit card, and they use that. They have a business which leverages that too. So CBAS, that's one strategy you could use depending on what you want to do with that. And or they're playing the points game where they're maximizing that, where we're leveraging it. And so I really wanted to learn it because I didn't like sitting really simply in economy with my legs being 6'2" in the knees in the back of the seat. I was sick of that. So I wanted to learn. And here's what I've learned is how you maximize credit cards really simply is welcome offers. Okay, so welcome offers are pretty straightforward. When you apply for a credit card, oftentimes they have different incentives to apply for a card. So what that looks like is, for example, I had this from the last time I applied for one back in December. Normally the American Express Platinum Business Card is 120,000. Maybe you can find it for 150,000 welcome offer points. I somehow found it for 190,000 points, which is unheard of. And so I didn't need it. I wasn't looking to I actually broke some rules with applying for cards, but I did it anyway because it was such a good offer. And I knew that I could spend that amount of money, 15 grand in 3 months, pretty easily because as Sebastian alluded to earlier in the call, I have a barn. I need to buy a roof. So really simply, I just charged the roof for my barn on my credit card. And that took care of basically the entire spend I had to get to 190,000 points. Other ones, 85,000 points, 100,000 points. That's pretty much the strategy is what you're going to do, or what with under this strategy is every couple of months, you apply for a new credit card and you take advantage of the welcome offers. So how this works really simply is it doesn't ding your credit, right? Your credit doesn't go down in the dumps as long as you're doing a couple basic things. You're paying your bills on time. So what that means is month in, month out, you're actually clearing your balance, right? You're not carrying a balance from month to month and you're not doing crazy stuff. And then you apply for your cards every few months, 3 to 5 months with a cadence that's not going to be too crazy. And you can do this. You can actually apply for 2 credit cards at once depending on what you're spending per month right now. So if your average spend, again, if you're younger in the game where you're not spending a ton of money because you're just out of college, you probably don't want to get open up a welcome offer more than probably 4 or 5 grand in 3 months, because you're probably not spending a whole lot more than that. If you've been around for a while and you have a house and you have kids and you have a bunch of expenses, you're probably already spending somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000, $3,000 to $8,000 a month. So hitting a welcome offer between 5 and 15,000 in 3 months is really not that challenging to do. Different cards are gonna have different things, so kind of just depends. But anyway, so on my chase cards, as you can see, I have multiple chase cards. I actually have more points than that at this point, but over 540,000 points that we occurred just in basically the last 18 months. And then on my Amex, this is from December, it's actually up to 949,000 points at this point. So even in the last 6 months, I've gotten up another 220,000 points. Now, by the way, how did I do that? I didn't do that by spending $200,000, because on the Amex Platinum, $1 spent is 1 point. But there's ways you definitely can leverage the spending you have in order to get even more points to get some really cool benefits. So let me do this real quick.
Chris, what do all these points buy? I don't even know what. I just get cash back and airplane miles.
Great question.
What is points?
Great question, Tyler. So let's look at this. There's a couple ways you could do this. Actually, I'll back this up and share my screen on a different side here. So let's do it this way. Okay. Can you guys see the screen here? No? Are you seeing that? No, probably not. Let's try that again. What do you see right now on the screen? I can't see, the green box is gone.
Your Zoom web page.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So Tyler just asked, what does points buy you? Okay, so you could do a couple different things. So with points, you can leverage it one of 2 ways, actually. You can, if you wanted to, okay, there you go. So I'm going to go back to the screen, sorry. All right, so Tyler, you have the option, right? So when you get points, you can do a couple things with it, with your credit cards. So you could pay for transactions, which I've done before with my, not Quicksilver, but my business for Capital One. Really, that's all it is cash back, 2% cash back.
Sure.
I'll pay for that, right? So if you look at this, so for example, this was a spend sometime in January. So if I wanted to pay for this Venetian charge of $25, it would have cost me 4,328 points. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything yet, but I'll show you the contrast of where we're going with this. If I wanted to pay for this as part of our wedding, if I had to put down $1,600 for something, $1,600 would have cost me 273,000 points. So kind of keep that in mind. It's basically double the points for the less the cost, right? So again, I promise I'll get somewhere with this. And then you go to gift cards. If you want to do a gift card instead of pay for a transaction, that's an option as well too. Sometimes they're better terms, but they kind of range. On this example on Amex, if I wanted to buy a Starbucks gift card for $25, it would cost me 5,000 points, right? I wouldn't say that's good. In fact, the best way to do it, in my opinion, is all your points should be used towards travel, and travel that you would never want to actually pay for because it's obnoxiously expensive. And that's where leverage comes in. So what this looks like is this. Earlier this year, me and my now wife took to Spain, and we flew to, where we fly to? We flew to Switzerland first. And so we looked at the flights. The flights we ended up booking, and I'll show you how to do this on a page here in a second. The flights we looked at business class were $8,200 a piece to lay in the flight, all flat seats on Air France, or no, I'm sorry, Air Swiss were $8,200. I'm never going to spend $8,200 on a flight ever. That's just not going to happen. But it doesn't mean I don't want to lay in a lay flat seat. And what it ended up costing me was 70,000 points for an $8,200 ticket. And if you go back to the last slide, that $1,600 for the wedding I would have to spend 273,000 points. So what you can do when you use it towards travel, especially higher end travel, is you can leverage it significantly higher in terms of a value than if you just use it to pay off a laptop or use it to pay off a monthly expense. It's better just to use cash for those things. So how you book it though is going to depend too pretty wildly here. So let me also share this. So in the grand scheme of things with credit cards and airline, all that stuff, you also want to look at different partnerships that airlines have. So for example, I just picked up Wikipedia for this, but there's three major categories of airlines. There's Star Alliance, there's One World, and there's SkyTeam. So what that means really simply is there's three big airlines in the US. They're United, American, and Delta. Each of them have their own alliance. And so for example, United, this is United Airlines. They have about 21 different airlines throughout the world that oftentimes that you can use points on United and book on these different airlines, or you could do the inverse of that and you could book on these websites a United flight. With me so far? So let's use this for example. So I have United, I have status at United, so I typically default to United for a lot of things just because they already have some built-in perks. Once you have status at certain airlines, really silly to not use them with regularity because you get benefits that you can't get or you don't have to pay for, which are pretty sweet. So let's use this. So let's say I wanted to book a flight on United, and anyone have a trip they want to plan? Let's get crazy with it. I'll kind of walk through this.
Let's go to Croatia for Yacht Week, end of August.
All right. So is that what is that? Dumbervich. I said that incorrectly, but whatever. We'll go to Dubrovnik. Okay. And we'll go out to O'Hare. That seems like that makes more sense than flying out of Milwaukee. Okay, cool. Let's look at the weekends here. So when's Yacht Week? Is that earlier in the year?
No, it's like in August.
Oh, it's in August. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so let's go. These tickets don't look too expensive. So let's say it's the 14th of August. We'll go to, yeah, that works. 6th to the 14th. Let's just do that and see what happens. Okay, so find flights. Please enter valid dates. Let's try that again. Okay, great. All right, cool. So if we look on this right here, all right, cool. So if we wanted to pay for this, the 9:40 p.m. flight from ORD, let's take a look at this, is business class is $12,286. If we flip that to, instead of doing cash, if we did that to points, we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna go back a page and then we're gonna book with points, book with miles. Let's see what happens here. Go to sign in. So that's a $12,000 flight right now. That's what they want. And I think it was $1,200 for like the economy or whatever. Now it goes to $88,000 points. So that would have cost, that's like one welcome offer. So if you just do what you're already going to do and spend $7,000 in 3 months as a added, so you guys are all Cutco. So as a benefit, if you buy this homemaker today, I'll throw in this trip to Greece or a pair of super shares. Not bad, right? It's kind of the same kind of deal here. And it's extra 43,000. Now, what's crazy is if I take the same flight, I don't know if this is the same flight. That looks different. Did that look different? I think that looked different. Either way, I'm taking this 88,000 mile flight than the other one. But if we look on Air Canada, which is the same, has the same options with some of those things, let's see if we can get it lower, because it's possible that we could use a United flight, but we could book it through airplane and get it cheaper than 88,000 points. So let's take a look real quick. I love the double security for booking airlines. It's pretty sweet. Give me a second here.
This is actually my least favorite thing about Air Canada's sign-in is the
Yeah. You gotta
double
make sure,
sign-in.
gotta make sure it's secure. Okay, great. All right. So let's look for that same trip and just see if we can compare the differences here. So I'm kind of going off the rails with this, but like the benefits of having points, because you can really, if you learn how to strategize this too, you can really maximize your points a lot more efficiently than just that. So ORD to there we go. We said the dates were, we said the 6th to 14th. So search. Let's see what we find. Oh, I need to book with points. So I gotta go back a page here. But hopefully this is making sense in terms of like how this works. You kind of just want to compare and contrast. So it was 88,000 points was the best offer for on United for business class, lay flat seats, better food, better everything. This one's only 70,000 points. So it went from 88,000 to 70,000 points. So now you're saving 18,000 points for something else down the road. Does that make sense? And so this is true about all the airlines on United's alliance. This is true about the Delta lines. This is also true for the American Express, or not American Express, but the American Airlines, where you can kind of do the same thing where you book through different partners. You'll actually get a better value from there. Any questions about that? Let's just stop for a second and just kind of any thoughts, any observations, any whatever.
I do have a question. Do you have either the Aeroplan or United cards?
I have a United card and I had an Aeroplan card. I just got rid of it because I don't need it anymore.
Okay.
So yes, I had both, and those are transferable, so you can use them on either airline. Cool. Any other questions?
Is Air Canada with United?
Yeah, they're under that same alliance. So if I had Aeroplane points, so here, I'll give you guys another example of what we did to book the last trip here. So when I was talking about when we booked the trip to Europe earlier this year, I also, by the way, this is in my PowerPoint, so I'll just talk about it. Something called Rakuten. Rakuten is a platform which I don't understand how they exist or why it exists, but it's an awesome thing that it does exist. So essentially, Rakuten is a third party that essentially, instead of going directly to, I like to buy stuff at Nike or Yeti or whatever. Instead of going directly to those websites, I go to Rakuten first. If I go to Rakuten first and then go to those sites, I actually get cash back, but I get it in a form of points on my Amex instead of cash back, because I can leverage the points more than I can just leverage cash back. So I'll show you what that kind of looks like here in a second as well too. But it's something that I think is a really good way to multiply points and get some cool stuff with it. So during this period, I think it was from like the 11, so November 15th to February 15th from last year to this year, I earned over 46,000 points on stuff I was going to buy anyway. And it didn't cost me $46,000. It cost me probably $2,000. So it's pretty crazy in terms of like the ability to leverage stuff there. So here's an example. So this is a little bit more complicated, but this is called triple dipping. So you take something you want and then you apply different things that you can apply it to. So on Yeti, I recently bought a small cooler that's normally $250. So what I did is I bought the cooler for, didn't cost me $200 because I used ID Me, which is good for teachers, military, nurses, where you get 20% off on certain websites. So that $250 cooler went from $250 to $200. And then I also used Rakuten for this one. You can see right here, I ended up spending over $250 because I bought some other things. I got 2,000 points, where if you use that in dollar terms, that's $20. And then on top of it, here's the triple dip, is on Amex. They had an offer where if you spend more than $200 at Yeti, you also get $50 back. So that $250 cooler actually cost me $130. So I basically got Yeti for 50% off, and that's you can't get Yeti for 50% off through traditional methods, but you actually can if you leverage things and everything kind of lines up perfectly. So I was pretty fired up about that. Anyway, and so you can see just a couple days ago, $50 back was credited to my account on my Amex, which is pretty sweet. So in terms of redemption, this is what we're talking about before, the transactions, gift cards, leverage. What's really cool is on some cards, specifically the two big ones, Chase and Amex, they have something called transfer portals or transfer partners, where they actually have sometimes bonuses on top of that. So for example, when I transferred points from my Chase card to my Aeroplan card, because that's what I booked the flight with, I actually got a 10% transfer bonus on top of it. Plus there was some like 20% things. So all those flights didn't cost me 70,000 points. It cost me something like 55,000 points to book the 88,000, which was like a $7,000 flight or whatever it was. So I hope this is not blowing, like this is not getting confusing, but it might be at this point. But they have things, and I can walk you guys through what this looks like on an Amex. When you go to transfer partners, sometimes they have elevated things. So instead of going 1 for 1, if I transfer 1,000 at the time, if I transferred 1,000 points to my Hilton account, instead of it being 1,000 points, it's 2,000 points. So it's leveraging, again, what I'm already spending on Amex versus specifically when you get a co-branded credit card. I think Tyler said he has an airline card with a credit card. You can only use it on miles for that airline. When you use it on a Chase card or an Amex card, you have the ability to spend it however you see fit with different transfer portals, or you could just pay for it in a transfer, or you could just pay it off that way as well. So again, what you want to do at that point is kind of pick your partners. Maybe that's based strategically on where you are in the US. If you're in Chicago, United makes a lot of sense because that's kind of a hub. If you're in Minneapolis, Delta makes a lot of sense because that's a hub. If you're in Milwaukee, you're kind of just screwed. So you got to figure out what that works in terms of which one's the best one, but figure out what that looks like and just leverage those because you're going to get more status when you use them. So the things to learn that take a little bit more time to learn, but these are kind of just some general knowledge is, are you guys seeing my screen, by the way? Or am I just, okay, you are. Good. I don't see a green box. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, timings of welcome offers, because throughout the calendar year and different times of the year, the welcome offers are going to be different. So for example, I personally think the Amex Platinum is the best card out there in terms of benefits and like extra things you get with it. It's got one of the biggest annual fees of $695, but I can easily justify that price with all the stuff that I get because of it. But right now, if you applied for it, it's only 80,000 points. Where normally, or not normally, but if you wait a certain time of the year, you can get 150,000 points. So that's basically double, and that's pretty significant when you're talking about points, because it would cost basically $150,000 to get 150,000 points if you're just going to spend that. Which purchases to use on your card, or which purchases to use on what card? So for example, some cards are going to offer like a 6% grocery fee, like grocery store use. So that's the card I would use on grocery stores or restaurants or gas. Certain cards are going to have better benefits. So once you kind of get really in the weeds, you can start to really maximize how you're spending your cash to really get the most for your money, really simply. And then the benefits of each annual card typically can be outweighed by the benefits of what the card offers as well too. It's just kind of learning those things. And then also which cards align with what you're wanting and where you're wanting to go. Certain cards would make more sense. If I recently saw something on YouTube or somewhere, Emirates, the Emirates airports or the airline, it looks absolutely amazing. But if you're not going to fly to Asia, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to book it. So at some point I might, want to take a trip to Asia just because I want to sleep in a bed and lay in front of a TV that's 40 inches and drink champagne and have caviar, just because that sounds pretty cool to me. It's my wife's looking at it. I don't know if she's interested in that or not, but we'll see. So anyway, the last thing, just a couple rules that I think go along with the game is, don't spend outside your budget. So if you're gonna get a credit card that you're gonna like hit the welcome offer. Otherwise, it's a waste because you only get one welcome offer for a lifetime with the card. So if you don't hit it, you lose it. So I'd want to make sure that I know I can spend X, Y, or Z. I think you need to pay credit card balances in full. I just wouldn't carry a balance anyway. Maybe that's not true, but I've only just kind of paid my credit cards every month, so I don't have to worry about that. Seabass, you asked this before, but it's probably something more specific. Individuals can actually apply for some business cards, and some of the business cards are actually better cards to apply for because of the spending and the points value you get for them. So a lot of the Chase Inc. cards are better cards in terms of bigger welcome offers that I would highly recommend, and you could actually apply for them even if you don't have an LLC or an EIN, because you could apply as a solopreneur on some of those cards and still get accepted for those. And then the last, there are some things called like the 524 rule with Chase. We won't get into that tonight, but essentially you can only open so many cards in a specific time period. So I'll take some questions here in a second, but you got a couple options in terms of what you want to do. You could do nothing. It's a pretty cool choice. You could just keep doing what you've been doing, and that's totally cool. You could dabble. By the way, so a couple things on the screen. The QR code, if you want, is for Rakuten. So you could get a Rakuten account. Once you spend $30, they give you $30 back right away. So it's basically like a free how I looked at it is like, the first time I tried it, I was like, I don't know if this is true. I bought a Yeti for $30, and then like 3 months later, I got $30 back. So I got a free Yeti. I was pretty fired up about that. And then as you can see, I now have over like 100,000 points on Rakuten because I just think it's pretty awesome. And then the last thing I'll share with you guys here is here. You can see what I'm talking about real quick. With this, on my Rakuten account since it's 9,000 points, so you can see kind of how it just multiplied. Spending 250 got me 2,000 points. I had to buy a new lawnmower blades, 335 points for $83 spent. You can see how it accumulates over time. And, really simply, I love Nike. Nike jumps up to 20% back sometimes. I'm just like, dude, I'll keep buying some Nike. And what's crazy is I probably shouldn't say this, but sometimes if you don't return it right away, but you wait like 30 days to return it, they don't take away your points, but you get your cash back. So you really just like made $20 in the transaction, depending on what you spent. So that's also something, just throwing that out there. So anyway, and the last thing is, if this sounds like something that you would want more help with, you're like, I got this, Chris, I don't need help. But if you're like, I need more help, I need more guidance, I'm happy to help, especially with timing of the right cards at the right time and just kind of helping with cadence. Sometimes you got to talk to a credit card company to get accepted or transfer balances. And that's an easy conversation that I enjoy having. But yeah, so anyway, any questions at all about anything?
What are like the go-to ones? Because I think I have, well, not think. I have like the Discover card that I first started out with in college that every like 3 months it changes like 5% cash back. Like right now it's gas, which is freaking awesome. And then sometimes it's like, I don't know, Amazon purchases. So I have like a Discover card. I have American Airlines for miles. And then I have a AAA one because I get like 4% back on like all my insurance premiums. And I have rental houses and cars, so like yeah. So yeah. How like what is the best card I guess to start with?
So it's going to just depend on what you're wanting the card to do, real simply, because if you're, I think a lot of times when you're trying to maximize credit card points, it's because you have the desire to travel and travel well without having to pay those prices.
Yeah.
So if you're more interested, you're like, I don't have time to travel. I have a small kid. I'm not going anywhere. Then it's like, well, then, going after an Amex Platinum might not make a lot of sense. Where if you are single and you love traveling, I love the Amex because I love lounge access. I love like the airline, a lot of the benefits that come with it that make the experience more pleasurable. I think it's worth it, but it kind of just depends on where you are. And that's where it's more of an individual conversation, Tyler, of like, hey, what do you want and how to maximize that? Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. So I only have a Capital One card, had it for a while now, and I've gone to apply for like a better Capital One because there's been a nice welcome offer. Like I have a good credit, but like a low limit. And I've gone for it twice, and then both times they like say, no, sorry, you can't have the bonus offer, and your APR will be like 28%. So is there a way to get around that, or I just need to not be so broke? Or
Well, without knowing your exact situation, the APR, in my opinion, wouldn't matter if you're not carrying a balance. So if my APR is
right, I don't either, but
then that shouldn't really matter.
it's weird that I don't get the bonus and that there's no like 0% intro.
So what I might do is I might not be applying at Capital One. Then I might try to go to Chase or some other bank that might value your business a little bit more. So that might be worthwhile to explore. Like the Chase Sapphire is a great entry level card. Right now I think it's a 6. And I was going to pull up another website for you guys. So a couple things. I listen to the Points Guy. The Points Guy is like has a newsletter every day, so I look at that daily in terms of what they're advising. And just here, if I show you this. Just this month, here are all the different offers that they like. These are all available right now. Some of these are like good, some of these are like normal, right? So the Capital One, there's very few people that I'd recommend this to because very few people are going to spend $30,000 in the next 3 months. If you have a business or if you're going to like have to replace a roof, then go ahead and do that. If you want to throw it in a credit card, that makes a lot of sense if you're able to do that. But most people aren't going to do that. The co-branded ones are only going to be able to leverage at those specific things. So Marriott, if I get this, well, great, I get 80,000 points or whatever it is, 5 3 nights. By the way, I actually got this one back in March. So if we decided to go on a trip to like, the idea is like Bora Bora or something really big, that the hotel would also be free for 5 nights. So that was kind of a cool thing we're going to use at some point, but it was really simple because it was just paying for wedding stuff. The ink card, again, this is why I love the inks, is that you get 100,000 points for spending 8 grand, which isn't hard to do in 3 months. And you can apply for, there's 3 or 4 of them. And you can get all those bonus points, which I'm a big fan of. This is really low, 80,000 points. Yeah, I like, there's people that say I want to get the Amex. I tell them not to get it until it's at least 150. So I would not recommend someone getting the Amex right now if they're going to get it for the welcome offer, because it's really kind of crappy right now. So this is what I was talking about in terms of timing, when it's a good time to apply, but this is all free information that you can go to the Points Guy and they have all this stuff. This is what they're saying. These are the best offers for July. And so when you see something that's historically great, that's when you want to kind of capture it. But keep in mind, if you apply for it now and you can only get the welcome offer one time. So that's where you want to kind of maximize that as much as possible. But the Chase Sapphire, it's almost always 60,000 points. And this is a good card because it allows you to transfer those points within Chase and really kind of use the whole Chase system that you can tie again, without getting too complicated. That's just a good card to have to kind of be that. So Evan, if you're just like, hey, I want a kind of a good starter card with that, Chase Sapphire would probably be a good way to go. So
Thanks. Yeah, that's a good recommendation.
any other questions?
I thought you said in your thing, like about moving up, like closing a card out and then taking advantage of, what's that process like?
Yeah, so for example, so Bridget asked me about I had an aeroplane card. So after a year, I closed my aeroplane card because I didn't want to pay the annual fee and there was no benefit of me spending it on that card anymore because I'd already got the welcome offer. So if there's a card that I just am not going to use after, because I already got my welcome offer. So a lot of the cards, if you looked at my credit card statements right now, a lot of them are 0, but they're not costing me anything because they have like either a 0 annual fee or there's some other benefit. But if they have no, like, I'm not going to use them for spending anymore, I will close them. It doesn't hurt my credit score by closing it because all essentially you're doing is when you get into it, the weeds, you can transfer the balance of that card to a different card within the family of that bank. So that's what I've done with Chase. So I kind of like a revolving, $15,000 to $20,000 that I put on different cards and move them around, and my credit has not gone down or has not been affected in a negative way at all. Any other questions? So really simply, guys, if you do have any more questions, and again, if this is kind of my dog back there. If you decide you want to dabble with this, by all means, you can kind of explore on your own and kind of figure this out. But if you're looking for some more like coaching or guidance on this, I'm happy to help. I'd be able to provide just the same kind of service that the guy that taught me 2 years ago. I can teach you guys the same thing at this point. And this is something with my time. I have more time than I've ever had in terms of Cutco because I'm not having to run 12 interviews in three days anymore. I don't really do that. I have a lot of free time where this is kind of fun. This is enjoyable because it helps people kind of maximize and have a interesting, more luxurious lifestyle than if they not do that. So my dog is, thank you. It's a mutt. Her name's Luna. She's great. Yeah. You want to say hi? No, come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, there she. Oh, look at that. Yeah, she's cute. So cool. Well, if you guys don't have any other questions, feel free to hop off the call. This is kind of what I wanted to give you guys, and hopefully there was some value for you. You got something worthwhile, man.
Thanks, Chris. This is awesome.
Thanks, Chris.
Wrong, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, nice PowerPoint. It was good. Thanks.
Blake, good.